Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. It is Monday night. It's 9:30, and it's, well, at least when I'm recording this, it's 9:30. If you're listening to this on demand, then you'll have no idea what time it is, unless you have a watch or something. Let's just skip that whole intro. Anyway, it's your good buddy Spider with another episode of your favorite audio delight podcast that starts with Let's Talk About. And, you might wonder what happened last week. Last week, there was no episode. There was no announcement that there was not going to be an episode. It just wasn't there, and I haven't said anything about it. And to be honest, and this is going to sound bad at first, but I'll give you an explanation. To be honest, I completely forgot about it on Monday. And you might be thinking, oh, wow, how unprofessional. Why would he forget about it? But, well, I'll tell you, it had been a really tough weekend. I had been dealing, for one, with a furnace that didn't work since before Christmas. The house was cold. I was trying to run space heaters, trying to keep it at a bare minimum of above freezing and like layered with stuff. And I'd been running around trying to get parts and different things to fix this furnace. It's fixed now, mostly. There's still a couple things I think I need to do to tweak it, but for the most part, it's working. But I had that going on, and then you guys may have known, you may know, I've mentioned it several times, that there's a dog that I had, and I have to say had, so now you're going to be like, oh, but this dog I had, who needed a lot of care and a lot of attention, and sometimes she'd, get up during a broadcast, and I'd have to see what she needed and things like that, because she was old, and she had a lot of issues. Well, she ended up passing away on the Saturday before. Or maybe it was the Friday. It was the Friday before. And, so, I was dealing with that, and Monday came and Monday went, and I honestly did not even think about doing a show. It didn't even pop in my brain. Like, the thought wasn't there. I remembered maybe on, Thursday, I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot to do the thing on Monday, but it was understandable, why not? So rather than make a big deal out of it, I just waited until today, which is the next Monday in the line, to tell everybody about it. Okay, so that's what happened. So it's been a little rough, but I'm back here today, and I have a new topic. I got a new topic, and it's not going to be. I know the last time we had a passing, I did a whole show dedicated to that subject, and I'm not going to do that this time. I've talked about that, and I don't want to get people sad. I know you're probably already kind of like, oh, about the dog already, but it's okay. We all keep going. So, what are we talking about tonight? This is kind of a niche area, niche, however you want to say it, because people don't watch TV the way they used to. Advertisements are much different than they used to be. They're big old pop-up things and whatnot. But we're going to talk about, as I've been growing up from being a child to my old man self, the various commercials that I used to see on TV. And we're going to start with one that was pretty famous, and I don't know if people still even remember it much anymore. Where's the beef? Let's talk about this. Now, I'm not literally looking for beef. I know where to find it. Okay, I don't need to look for it. But the TV commercials, we've come a long way with TV commercials and advertising. Everybody knows the ads on your Facebook and different things. And I'm going to mention a lot of commercials that talk about specific brands, and I just want to make sure everybody knows that I'm not endorsing or being endorsed by any of these brands that I'm mentioning. So please don't start any lawsuits. Please don't. But, yeah, commercials in television have been a thing for a long time. And commercials have been a thing, advertising has been a thing for much longer than I've been around. When radio became a regular thing and people would listen to radio shows, what came next? Radio advertisements, radio endorsements, people plugging their elixirs and their hardware stores and whatnot. And of course, so when television came along, what's the next thing to follow with your news and your shows? It's going to be commercials and advertisements. And before that, of course, it was up to print. Like if people would have newspapers and magazines and things. And so they would have that. And that would be your advertisements. But and I'm hoping that I'm not like buzzing here, because I'm noticing an audio thing. And I'm hoping I'm not buzzing. I'm gonna check something here. So you might hear some echoes. Check. Check. I think that's good. Yeah, all right. Okay. I'm going to turn that back off. I was seeing some weird stuff, and I was just like, I don't know. But anyway, back to the topic. So, everything was in print. It was newspapers and magazines and whatnot, and big signs you'd see and murals on the side of buildings and that kind of thing. But TV commercials. Where's the beef? That was a famous one, wasn't it? It was for Wendy's, I think. The fast food place, Wendy's. And it was three old ladies, and somebody's like, "Oh, here's a burger from some generic burger place." And it was this massive bun as big as your head. And you couldn't see a burger in it. And so the middle lady was like, "Where's the beef?" And lifted the top of the bun, and it's this tiny little circle, smaller than your hand, of a burger. And then they went on to compare that with Wendy's burgers, or blah, 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 and talked about how great that is. But that was a big one. People remembered the slogan, "Where's the beef?" You'd be like, "Oh, well, it's at Wendy's, right?" I'm not going to go like era by era. I'm going to skip around based on my recollections of different commercials that I remember. One of my favorites, and apparently there was a whole series. I only remember the first one. I don't remember the second or the third. There were 3 total different commercials. I only remember the first one. But apparently you can watch all 3. Like a lot of these commercials you can see on YouTube. So if you want to be like, "Well, that doesn't sound very funny. Let me look it up on the YouTube." And, "Oh, that's hilarious." "Oh, well, no, it's not hilarious. He was just making up whatever." So you can do what you want, and you have to use that voice when you do that. But my favorite commercial as a kid, and I've never really liked commercials, I'll tell you that. I've always been kind of irritated that they came in between of my programming and the stuff I wanted to watch. I didn't like commercials. I still don't. I hate them. I hate commercials. But some of them were funny, and I liked them. And my favorite, as a kid, was the Trunk Monkey. And I don't remember what it was for. It might have been for car insurance or like car repairs or something. It had something to do with cars, but it wasn't selling a specific car. It wasn't like a car brand. It was something to do with protecting your investments or something with the car. But there's this guy, he's sitting looking kind of nervous in a car at the driver's seat. He's holding onto the wheel, and he's sitting there, and he's like, and all of a sudden this big, bulky looking, angry looking man who's supposed to look like a trucker or a biker or something stereotypical, comes up and starts like yelling at him at the window, like his window's up. The guy's yelling outside like, "You better get out your car. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that." So maybe there was like a little fender bender, whatever. The circumstances aren't super important. But the guy's yelling and threatening this other guy. He's like, "I'm going to beat you. I'm not her." And that's my language choices are not exactly accurate. But the guy presses a button on his dashboard labeled Trunk Monkey. And the trunk pops open. And this guy yelling at him doesn't notice. He's just continued to abuse and whatever. And this monkey climbs out of the trunk with a tire iron in its hand. And it goes up to the guy and it smacks the guy with the tire iron and knocks him to the ground. And so the guy in the car is like, "Thanks, trunk monkey." It sounds not funny, but it is funny. It's funny to me. I thought it was hilarious. Like, my goodness, I still laugh about it now. If I pulled that up on YouTube, I would probably still chuckle. But apparently there were two more, and I've since gone back and watched them. They weren't as funny. They were a little darker, like different circumstances. But the first one was just funny because it was so unexpected. It was very unexpected. The Taco Bell dog. You guys remember that? The Taco Bell Chihuahua? This was in the late 90s, early 2000s. Because, and I know that as a point of reference, because one of the commercials, one of the later ones, came out in support of a movie, a Godzilla movie that was nothing like the other Godzilla movies. Like, the Godzilla didn't look like real Godzilla. It was some Hollywood reimagining of what Godzilla should look like. The movie was pretty terrible, but, it's a good popcorn movie. You're just going to go and laugh. But they had a commercial for Taco Bell that was propping that movie. I'm going to get up a second, because I'm going to go reset my furnace, because it's being how it's being. It needs reset every so often, because how it is. So I'm just going to walk over here, hit the button, and then wander back over here. That's the exciting life I've got. It sometimes gets into a pattern where it just hangs and won't. It'll run, but it won't actually put out any heat. It'll just sit there like, what am I supposed to be doing? Oh, I'm supposed to be heating your house. But the Taco Bell dog, and it had a catchphrase. The catchphrase was "Yo quiero Taco Bell," and I don't speak Spanish. My accents are terrible. You guys know that. But that's what he would always say. He would always say that. So that was big when I was a kid. Nowadays we have some weird commercials now too. Like, we've got the Emu for Liberty Mutual, the insurance company. Those are weird commercials. We got those. And there's also, like, classic commercials that you still once in a while see pop up because they're timeless classics because of the thought and the effort put into them. They're not meant to be funny or silly. They're just supposed to be, oh, that's nice. Like the Coca-Cola commercials with the polar bears and Santa and things that come out around Christmas. And the big Coca-Cola truck. You got those. Then they had those Pepsi commercials where it was like, you had the regular Pepsi, but then you had the Diet Pepsi, and then you had the Pepsi Zero, or whatever it was. And every time somebody would go through there, they would reveal themselves to be a different person. Like, it was Haley Joel Osment, and then it was Halle Berry, and then it was Barry Bostwick or something. You have to look some of these up, because it's different hearing them than it is seeing them. Okay? So you have to go look them up. Then I just had a thought for one, and now I can't remember. Oh, you got the Mr. Clean commercials, which is he's the bald guy. He gives you like the magic sponge, and you clean off whatever. And it used to be just detergents and things before they came up with the magic sponge. You had the Quiznos commercials. Quiznos commercials were freaky. They were weird sometimes. The commercials they put for kids, like for cereals and things, have gone through some weird metamorphoses as well. Like, you've had these weird characters, like, some of them are normal. Like, you got Tony the Tiger. He's like, they're great for the Frosted Flakes, for this Frosted Flakes cereal. But then even he changed. Like, now he's rapping and things. Like, he's doing freestyles. He's doing freestyles. He got into extreme sports in the early 2000s. Now he's into, the rap lifestyle, the hip-hop lifestyle. And so, it's crazy seeing the evolution of some of these things. The Keebler elves, they do different things. Lucky Charms, Lucky Charms get back and forth. There's like a whole sub culture around commercials for the Super Bowl, since it's going to be Super Bowl time real soon. I guess the playoffs just finished, and we got the teams that are going to the Super Bowl, and I don't care about either one, so I don't even know who it is. But part of the, like, a lot of people don't even tune in to watch the game. They tune in for halftime, which is usually some performer that I'm not most of the time interested in either, or they watch for the commercials, because people pay big money to put special commercials on during the Super Bowl, for either for big movies or for games or for products or for whatever. And you can see a lot of things during the Super Bowl, especially for like alcohol and fast food and things like that. You see a lot of that. Budweiser, the beer makers, they had that "What's up" commercial. You guys remember that? And then they changed it to, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" So, commercials, like, I can't stand them most of the time. I don't like them. But there's always been something that's been funny. Now, the thing about commercials, too, though, is, like, especially with food commercials, and this has always bothered me, because when I was a kid, I didn't understand, but now I know. Because when they do the commercials, all the food is dressed up and it's made to look a certain way and whatnot, even though there's supposed to be truth in advertising, you know? But when I was a kid, I'd see food advertised, like for McDonald's or Burger King or something, and be like, "Oh, look, we gotta go and get that. That looks delicious." And then you'd get it, and it's a sad excuse for a sandwich. It's so good. It's like nothing like anything that you would see on the TV. And as an adult, I'm still disappointed, because I see the food advertisements, and sometimes they look delicious, and I'm like, "Oh, I should get me some of them." But I know better. I should know better. And most of the time, I'm like, it's not going to look like that when I get it. And sometimes I'll get it anyway. I'll just be like, "Well, maybe," and then I'm so disappointed when it comes up and I get it, and it's just a sad excuse for whatever meal I'm trying to get. Oh, man. Awful. It's awful. And, yeah, I always get grabbed. And there's other things that are like that, too. A famous, well, I don't know how famous it is to other people, but it lives in my head in infamy, rent-free, as they would say. There's game commercials for video games, where they'll either just show you like cutscenes and cinematics, and they won't show you how the actual game plays. Mobile games are terrible about this these days. Like, you see all these advertisements for mobile games on social media, and it's like, "Oh, look at all this," and the graphics look, "Oh, that's kind of cool," and then the game itself is like Bejeweled, basically, like a rip-off of Bejeweled. It's nothing like what they advertised, and I'm kind of like, ah. But big games, like for the Xbox and PlayStation, they do the same thing sometimes. Famously, for me, because I'm a big fan of the Aliens franchise. And so, they had a game coming out called Colonial Marines, where you played the Marines, and you went through infested areas, and you fought the aliens, and I would watch footage and be like, "Oh, that looks really great. Oh, my goodness, that looks awesome." And I pre-ordered it, and I was super excited about it. And then once I got the game, it was like the graphics were so much poorer. They were nowhere near as good, and the gameplay was bad and buggy and broken. And you get that with games, too. It's now a common complaint. You get that with games. So they'll hype up everything, and they'll be like, "Oh, look how great this plays." And then once you get it, it's like, "Oh, this is not what you advertised." Not at all. So, yeah, game advertisements and commercials are pretty bad. Movie commercials have gotten out of control lately. It used to be you'd watch a movie trailer and they would keep a lot of things kind of ambiguous, kind of like, what's going to happen? You have to come see the movie to find out. It's in theaters this Friday. But now, like, part of it is that they show all of the most exciting scenes all in the trailer, all in the commercial. So you know all the exciting scenes. You might not know all, like, the quiet story stuff, but you basically have seen the movie in, like, 3 minutes. Because they've condensed all the big action scenes into one montage. But then there's other ones, like other times too, like they'll put the trailer out before the movie's been fully edited. So if they've cut any scenes, like sometimes they'll put out these trailers and you'll be like, oh, that looks like a great scene, and then you watch the movie and the scene's not even there. Like it's not even in the movie because it got cut on the floor or whatever. It was on the cutting floor and whatnot. And there's a lot of, like I said, there's supposed to be truth in advertising. There's a lot of laws to make sure that people don't just, make up whatever, trying to sell things without facts and without honesty and things. But they still get away with these kind of stuff. They still get away with stretching that truth out a little bit. I don't know. I don't like commercials. I've liked a few. I have liked a few over time. But in general, I don't like commercials. Do you folks like commercials? If you do, send me some examples of your favorites. Send me some links or something. Don't send me scam links. I'm going to check. I will check. All right, I'm too smart for that. I don't click on those scam links. But if you got YouTube videos and things that you want me to see, then send them to uncannyspiritsclub@gmail.com. And I will watch them. And I will see if they are as interesting or as entertaining as you have professed. I always liked watching toy commercials, too, when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you'd have Transformers commercials, you'd have G.I. Joe commercials, you'd have Mighty Max, which is those little... It's like a face of like a monster or something gruesome, and then you opened it up, because it was an opening playset, and it was these little miniature figures, and you'd run around, and there'd be little monster battles and stuff. Star Wars action figures, that kind of stuff. I'd always watch the commercials for those. I really liked them. But then as a kid, you're always into that kind of stuff. You're always into the advertisements and stuff. Like, we would get the Sears catalogs and the big toy books and all those other... Now Amazon sends you toy catalogs around the holidays, which is just weird. But I'd always be excited for that. The advertisements for the toys. I liked candy commercials and Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew's always put out some weird commercials for the soft drink. The Mountain Dew soft drink. That's always been weird. But yeah, I go back and forth. I'm solidly against most advertising, but I understand you gotta have it. You gotta advertise your products. I understand that. I'm a smart enough guy. I get it. I just don't like it. Just because I get it doesn't mean I have to like it. Where's the beef? And it's always a crazy slogan like that. The coffee commercials, all that kind of stuff. There was a guy who advertised Tanqueray, which is like a gin, I think is a gin. And those were kind of funny. The Old Spice commercials these days, my goodness. But most of them aren't that funny. Not to me, anyway. I'm not a big fan. But there's so much of it everywhere. There's so much advertising now. You turn on the game console, and I'm looking at it like right now because it's on. And there's 1... Let's see... 2, 3. No, that's not that bad, actually. Only 3. There was a time when, like, everywhere you looked on the console, there was an advertisement. And they've been talking about putting virtual advertisements in the games themselves. So if, like, you're between missions and you're, like, waiting for it to load, oh, there's an advertisement for a product. Or if you're, like, in the game and you look and they can virtually, like, put it over your view of the game. Oh, here's an advertisement. And I'm not into that. Like, oh gosh, but there's advertisements there. There's an app I use, a local neighborhood app, where every third post is an advertisement instead of an actual post of what's going on in the neighborhood. Every third post, literally, you can count them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and it's all stuff that you don't care about and you don't want, and grouchy old man. And you get that on social media sometimes, too. Social media is weird because it goes in cycles. Like, I primarily just use Facebook anymore. I don't use X/Twitter. I don't use Instagram. I don't use TikTok. I don't use any of that kind of stuff. I'll use Facebook. If you consider YouTube a social media, I guess I use that too. Because I gotta put the content out. This is gonna be on YouTube, so I gotta do that. But Facebook, like, every so often it'll be like towards the beginning or the end of the month or some particular time. Like most days you're looking through and you know there's a typical amount of ads and whatnot. But then you can tell when they must be running specials on the cost of advertising on Facebook, because you'll see the weirdest stuff that's a sponsored ad on Facebook. Like some person just paid to have a post of, oh, I went fishing this weekend, it was fun. But they paid money to make that a sponsored ad so that people would go check out their page. And it's not even like a page selling anything, it's just some random person. It's weird, like, and you'll get, like, paid. You'll go at the specific times every month or so. You'll just get overloaded with all these random ads in between everything else that you usually look at, and you're like, where is all of this coming from? And you try to clear it off, and then it'll calm down and it'll go to usual, where you'll just have the stuff that you followed. But my goodness, sometimes it's just crazy out of control. Or there'll be like restaurants trying to advertise, like local restaurants in Colorado with an advertisement. And it's like, I'm not in Colorado. I'm not going to go to Colorado. They're like, come in this Thursday for drink specials. And it's like, I can't. I live in Ohio. Because when you set up the ads on that kind of stuff, you can do targeted ads, which is a thing for social media. You do targeted ads. You set it up where it's like, okay, I want it to perform for this market with these viewers and this audience, and there's options to tailor it for your local area. So you can set it to be like, okay, well, I'm in Colorado. I want more people in Colorado to come support my business. I don't ship worldwide. I don't ship nationwide. I don't ship outside of Colorado. So I just want people here to buy my product. But they don't check that. They'll just, oh yeah, send it everywhere. So I'm in Ohio, and I've got ads for, like, Alaskan pollock or something. And it's like, come down to our showroom. And it's like, do you ship? Like, can I order it online and have it shipped to my house in Ohio? They're like, no, we're local. You have to come to the store. I'm like, I'm in Ohio. I'm not going to come to Alaska. And they don't get it when you point it out either. I'm like, you know, you can target your ads. I'm like, and they usually get mad. They think you're like being a jerk to them, and it's kind of like, why do you expect? I'm just gonna put everything down and drive to Alaska to get this pollock. Oh my gosh, it must be the best. It's crazy. It's crazy. Advertising. Where's the beef? Where is it? Okay, Trunk Monkey. But that's it. I've hit my half hour. I've talked about commercials. My gripes about them. Because the gripes about them, my gripes. What's next for the future? I'm going to be back on schedule. I missed the one show last week, I know, but we're going to be back on from here on out, so everything's fine. It's been rough, but we're all good. And yeah, going to bring you lots of great content. At least I think it's great. You don't have to think it's great. All you have to do is listen and share it with your friends. So please do that. When this hits YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. Spider does things on YouTube. And if you are listening to this on Spotify, please subscribe to that. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Amazon or Google or wherever else you can find it, please subscribe to whatever service that is, because not only will that make them happy, but it'll also make me happy, because it'll pump up my numbers and they'll want to promote me more and I'll get more clicks and I'll be able to make more great content, or at least better content than this. Maybe, if I feel like it. If I feel like it. But that's it. That's Where's the Beef? Commercials. Commercials. I can't stand the commercials. That's all I got for you. I will see all of you folks next week.